It was the year 1952 when America first caught the flying saucer fever. A rash of strange sightings was reported in the skies over Washington, D.C. Were those unexplained radar blips, unidentified aircraft, or something much more outlandish? The Washington, D.C. sightings of the summer 1952 are also known as the Big Flap. But it all started in 1947 when a search and rescue pilot reported 9 saucer-like things flying like geese in a diagonal chain-like line. Their speed reportedly exceeded 1,000 miles per hour. Within mere weeks, the sightings of flying saucers were reported in 40 other states. Later, the explanations were found. The sightings were either hoaxes or misidentifications of known aircraft and natural phenomena, but a few cases remained unexplained. By 1952, the UFO investigation unit called Project Blue Book had been founded. It was led by Captain Edward Rubbold. He and his team would have continued to investigate a few dozen sightings per month, but for the April 1952 issue of Life magazine, with an eye-catching headline, "There is a case for interplanetary saucers." The article made quite a convincing case. It spoke about 10 unexplained UFO incidents, claiming that the flying objects were extraterrestrial in origin. According to the Washington Post, after the appearance of the article, the number of UFO sightings grew more than sixfold, from 23 in March 1952 to 148 in June. By July, the UFO mania was in full swing. All that was missing was a spark. And it happened before midnight on Saturday, July 19, 1952. An air traffic controller at Washington National Airport spotted 7 slow-moving objects on his radar screen. They were far from any civilian or military flight paths. He called his supervisor and joked about a fleet of flying saucers. Simultaneously, 2 other air traffic controllers at National spotted a bizarre bright light hovering in the distance. It suddenly dashed away at breakneck speed. At Andrews Air Force Base, located nearby, radar operators detected the same unidentified blips. Those were slow and clustered at first, but then they raced away at a speed higher than 7,000 miles per hour. One Andrews controller looked out of his tower window and spotted something he later described as an orange ball of fire with a tail. A commercial pilot flying over the Virginia and Washington, D.C. area saw 6 streaking bright lights resembling falling stars without tails. 2 jets were sent to search for the UFOs, but every time they got close to the locations shown on the radar screens, the weird blips would disappear. By dawn of July 20th, the objects were gone altogether. Ruppold, the lead investigator of Project Blue Book, found out about the sightings just a few days later after flying to Washington, D.C. and reading news reports. He tried to get to National and Andrews to interview the radar operators and air traffic controllers, but wasn't allowed to take a government-issued car. He had to fly back to Ohio with nothing. In a few days, UFOs were back over the Capitol. The same radar blips appeared again. Radar operators were wondering whether those dozen or so objects could be caused by a temperature inversion. That's a common occurrence in DC's muggy, scorching summer months. It occurs when a layer of warm air forms in the low atmosphere. It traps cooler air beneath. In this case, radar signals can bounce off the layer at shallow angles and create an impression of near-ground objects in the sky. To be safe, 2 more aircraft were sent to chase down the unidentified targets. The jets raced to a location targeted by radar, only for the blips to disappear. Eventually, one of the plane pilots saw a bright light in the distance and gave chase. But even though he was flying at maximum speed, he didn't manage to overtake the lights. At a press conference, representatives of the Air Force offered the public some easy-to-swallow explanations, having opted for the temperature inversion theory. After that, UFO sightings dropped from 50 a day to 10.
Did you know that reports of strange object sightings are quite common? The British Ministry of Defence reports at least 100 UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, sightings every year. That means there have been at least 2,400 reports in that country alone since the year 2000. A UAP is considered to be anything that cannot be immediately explained or identified. Usually, most reports find an explanation, such as atmospheric phenomena or known objects. However, the portion that remains unexplained is undoubtedly the most intriguing. Throughout history, there have been waves of sightings. One of the most well-known occurred in 1947, famously referred to as the flying saucer madness. That summer saw a flood of reports across the United States, with approximately 800 sightings that year alone. On that occasion, a local news story reported by a civilian pilot named Kenneth Arnold claimed to have seen disc-shaped objects traveling at speeds of around 1,200 miles per hour in a line of 9, passing over Mount Rainier. This was the first post-World War II sighting and is considered the report that marks the beginning of the modern UFO era. Returning to this century, there are at least 15 well-known cases. Let's examine some of the most striking examples. Number 1. The first case we'll look at has even sparked NASA's interest. It concerns the unexplained activity in a small town in the United Kingdom called Bonsall. Residents have reported and documented numerous cases of unexplained activity, earning it the nickname UFO hotspot. Reports range from silver shapes to strange lights in the sky. In 2001, Sharon Rowlands accidentally filmed a house-sized disc with colored lights around it. The video caught NASA's attention because it resembled an object spotted during a 1996 space mission. However, the only conclusion NASA reached was that the object was metallic and didn't match any known commercial or military aircraft. Number 2, this case is from 2004 and concerns the Tinley Park lights in Illinois, United States. Residents reported inexplicable lights in the sky, which were also seen in neighboring cities like Chicago. Witnesses claimed to have seen a triangular pattern of red orbs hovering over the town. Other witnesses stated that the lights displayed a range of colors, from amber to greenish yellow. Skeptics who saw the lights firsthand dismissed them as an elaborate prank, but no definitive explanation was found. The lights were seen twice that year and remain a mystery to this day. Number 3. The next case involves some of the most viewed footage of sightings. The unexplained videos from 2004, 2014, and 2015 recorded by pilots of the USS Nimitz and USS Theodore Roosevelt. The fighter jets managed to capture these strange flying objects using their infrared tracking cameras. In 2021, the Pentagon officially confirmed the authenticity of these recordings. Fighter pilot Commander David Fravor of the Nimitz stated that the object had been appearing for 2 weeks when he was called to investigate the case. The object appeared at an altitude of 80,000 feet, descended rapidly to 20,000 feet, and then hovered. Fravor reported seeing an oval-shaped object approximately 10 feet, 3 meters long flying over the ocean. He and other pilots accompanying him stated that they were able to observe the object for about 5 minutes before it disappeared. It was Commander Chad Underwood, in a second wave of investigation and equipped with an infrared camera, who managed to capture the first video, showing the object's erratic movements. Number 4. This case occurred in 2006 and is known as the O'Hare International Airport sighting in Chicago. Around 4:15 p.m., 12 United Airlines employees and several witnesses outside the airport saw an unidentified flying object resembling a flying saucer. The object was hovering over gate C-17. It was also seen by pilots, airline staff, and mechanics. Witnesses described it as completely silent and dark gray in color, adding that it clearly wasn't a cloud. A witness claimed that the object shot upwards at incredible speed, leaving a hole in the clouds that quickly closed. Despite numerous testimonies from people shocked by what they saw with their own eyes, authorities refused to pursue an investigation, as the alleged craft did not appear on any radar. Number 5. This case was cataloged as the 2024 New Jersey drone sightings. Interestingly, the appearances occurred on both the east and west coasts of the United States multiple times. These large, unidentified drones were seen near residential areas, power plants, railways, highways, and critical infrastructure, such as ports, bridges, and police stations. Over 3,000 reports were collected, but investigators couldn't determine an explanation. the Department of Homeland Security stated that the drones were manned aircraft operating lawfully. At the same time, the federal government called for legislation and additional resources to address the drone activity. According to a legislative briefing, the drones were up to 6 feet, 1.8 meters in diameter, operated for 6 or 7 hours, often turned off their lights, acted in a coordinated manner, and evaded detection. They most certainly did not seem to be flown by hobbyists. To this day, the operators or points of origin remain unidentified, but official investigations attributed most of the drone sightings to manned aircraft or misidentifications caused by nighttime illusions. Some even suggested mass hysteria, recalling the notorious 1947 flying saucer madness. Which of these cases sent chills down your spine? Let us know in the comments. And if you're curious about the latest unidentified phenomena, don't miss our video on the FBI's recently published UFO documents. Night enveloped the desert above Heraklion. A group of archaeologists moved through the labyrinth of sunken ruins, illuminating their path with powerful flashlights. Suddenly, one of the researchers, Dr. Martin Hale, stopped in front of a temple wall. He carefully brushed away a layer of sand and discovered a strange bas-relief. A woman holding a creature with an unusually elongated head and enormous eyes. "This can't just be a stylized depiction of an infant," whispered his colleague, Alice Carter. "The Paracas skulls in Peru have similar shapes. Could this be evidence of hybrids?" The question remained unanswered, but the mystery of Heraklion continued to intrigue scientists. Theories ranged from ancient cults to contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. However, biologists established that elongated skulls could be the result of artificial cranial deformation, a practice common in ancient times. No DNA analysis has shown traces of non-human genetics. Meanwhile, in another part of the solar system, the Viking 1 probe transmitted an image to Earth of a rock formation on Mars resembling a human face. The photograph instantly became a sensation, fueling conspiracy theories. "It's just pareidolia," astronomers stated. "The human brain is wired to recognize familiar shapes in random forms." Decades later, when NASA sent more advanced spacecraft, images confirmed that the face on Mars was merely an ordinary hill, with shadows creating the illusion of facial features. However, proponents of the ancient Martian civilization theory insist that the truth is being concealed. No less mysterious are the artifacts of the Maya civilization. Their bas-reliefs depicting beings resembling astronauts, their complex astronomical calculations, and myths of gods descending from the heavens suggest possible contact with extraterrestrials. Some researchers associate Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god, with alien beings. However, historians remind us that such imagery appears in many cultures and may carry purely symbolic meaning. In Scotland, on Arthur's Seat Hill, children stumbled upon 17 miniature wooden coffins with tiny figurines inside. The origin of these remains unresolved. Were they ritual offerings, connected to the murderers Burke and Hare, who sold their victims' bodies for medical research, or simply children's toys mistakenly perceived as something mystical? Some theories suggest they could have been a form of symbolic burial for souls who never received a proper grave. Others believe they were connected to an ancient superstition meant to ward off evil spirits. Another hypothesis suggests they were linked to an old Scottish practice of making talismans for protection against supernatural forces. The Antikythera mechanism found off the coast of Greece is another ancient enigma. This intricate device, over 2,000 years old, turned out to be an astronomical calculator ahead of its time. Studies revealed that the mechanism was used to calculate planetary movements and eclipses, proving the advanced knowledge of ancient Greek science. Many researchers now believe that similar devices might have existed, but no other examples have been discovered. Recent images from the Perseverance rover uncovered mysterious square structures on Mars. Geologists attribute them to natural crystallization and erosion processes, but UFO enthusiasts are convinced they are ruins of ancient constructions. The formations bear a striking resemblance to rectangular patterns seen in some ancient Earth structures, further fueling debates about potential past life on the Red Planet. In Germany, during excavations near Marburg Castle, students discovered a pocket sundial. The miniature device, several centuries old, amazed researchers with its precision and craftsmanship. Who owned it? Was it part of monastic heritage, used for prayers on a strict schedule? Experts believe that such sundials were rare and expensive, likely belonging to high-ranking individuals or scholars deeply engaged in astronomy and mathematics. Yet one of the most intriguing discoveries remains the Sabu disk, a 5,000-year-old artifact from Egypt. Its purpose remains debated. Some believe it was a ritual object, while others think it had a technical function, possibly part of an ancient machine. Some engineers speculate that its shape suggests it could have been part of a primitive flywheel or a component of an unknown mechanism. Certain studies suggest it could have been related to liquid movement or even served as a part of a lost mechanical system. Despite extensive research, its true function remains an enigma, adding to the ongoing fascination with the technological capabilities of early civilizations. The world is full of mysteries. Every solved enigma raises new questions. Were these artifacts merely the result of human ingenuity, or evidence of contact with forces we have yet to understand? As new discoveries emerge, the past continues to challenge our understanding, reminding us that history holds secrets waiting to be uncovered.
It was the year 2015 when U.S. Navy pilots flying training missions off the East Coast saw something truly eerie. They spotted oval-shaped objects moving quickly over the water. They seemed to rotate as they flew. At first, the pilots thought it was just one object, but soon they realized there were many of them, moving in unusual ways. These objects didn't look like normal aircraft. They didn't have visible engines, didn't produce exhaust, and didn't just hover near the sea like helicopters would. Some of them appeared at altitudes of 30,000 feet and were moving faster than the speed of sound. The strangest and scariest thing? The pilots had been observing similar objects almost every day for months. Mind you, those weren't rookie pilots. One of them was an experienced pilot with 10 years in the Navy. He, along with his fellow pilots, knew what typical aircraft looked like and how to stay calm under pressure. It wasn't until 2019 that the public heard about those sightings. That's when the New York Times published an article revealing them. The article included video footage taken by the pilot's plane cameras, which was later confirmed by the U.S. Navy in April 2020. The Navy officially released the videos soon after. In recent years, sightings of UFOs, now called unexplained aerial phenomena, have been reported by other reliable sources as well. The U.S. government has started to take these sightings seriously and has even brought in scientists to quietly investigate what might be behind them. So far, we still don't know exactly what the pilots and others have seen. But this growing scientific interest is pushing us closer to finding out more. While military pilots reporting UFOs might be a recent development, the public has been observing and reporting them for decades. In fact, the UFO craze in the US can be traced back to the summer of 1947. On June 14th of that year, a rancher discovered strange debris on his land near Roswell, New Mexico. At first, he thought it was from a kite. But even after looking through the bits of rubber, tinfoil, paper, and wood, he still couldn't make sense of it. The rancher then told the local sheriff about his find. And since his ranch was close to the Roswell Army airfield, the sheriff reported it to the military. Officers came to check it out, and couldn't identify the wreckage either. The next day, the Army issued a press release saying that they had recovered the remains of a flying saucer. The local newspaper even ran a headline, "RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell." But just a few days later, the Army changed its story, claiming the debris was from a weather balloon. By then, though, the excitement over UFOs had already sparked, and UFO fever spread across the nation. Now, UFOs are real, in the sense that people have indeed seen objects they can't identify in the sky. But when people ask, are UFOs real? They usually mean, are we being visited by aliens? And science doesn't have an answer to that yet. After the Roswell incident, UFO sightings became more frequent. People made wild claims, saying they'd met aliens or even been abducted. These stories were mysterious and captivating. No wonder they gained traction. The government didn't help much since it was keeping its own secrets. Eventually, they admitted to hiding something, but it wasn't little green men from other planets. In 1995, the Air Force released a report explaining that the debris found on Brazel's ranch wasn't from a weather balloon, but from Project Mogul, a secret Cold War program that used balloons to detect missile launches of certain countries. As for the alien bodies people claim to have seen, they were crash test dummies used in experiments with ejection seats. In 2021, the US government released a brief report on UAPs, aka unexplained aerial phenomena, stating that they have found no evidence of aliens. At the same time, they acknowledged that many UAP sightings had been recorded since 2004, and those remained unexplained. According to the report, those sightings did not necessarily point to alien spacecraft. Some could be birds, debris like party balloons, secret military projects, or even new technology from other countries. In May 2022, Congress held a public hearing on UFOs, and high-ranking military officials testified there. They revealed that since 2021, 400 unexplained sightings had been documented, but none suggested extraterrestrial life. At the same time, there's more and more evidence hinting that Earth may not be the only place with life in the universe. Earth itself is 4.5 billion years old, and life emerged here around 3.5 to 4 billion years ago. Life on Earth began fairly quickly, which means that the process of life forming wasn't overly difficult. And if life could begin easily on Earth, it's likely that it could also start on many other planets in the universe. The Milky Way galaxy alone contains 1 trillion planets, and there may be trillions more in the universe. Given these numbers, there is a lot of potential for life elsewhere. However, just because there's a possibility of life elsewhere doesn't necessarily mean that aliens have visited Earth. That's why SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence researchers, are focused on detecting signs of life elsewhere in the universe, not on studying UFOs. For a long time, most scientists dismissed the study of UFOs as pseudoscience. That's why many researchers interested in UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, stayed silent to avoid being seen as eccentric. But this has started to change. In June 2022, NASA created a team of scientific experts to search for the unknown in air and space. The researchers suggested using NASA's huge amount of space data to assist in the study of UAPs. The team also made it clear that studies of UAPs should focus on evidence and data, not speculation. Instead of simply collecting stories or relying on accidental sightings, the researchers used telescopes to capture footage of the sky. They gather this data and then analyze it with the help of artificial intelligence. They plan to add more observatories, and over 100 scientists are already involved. Astrobiologist Julia DeMarines suggests that some UAP sightings could be caused by unusual weather conditions. For instance, spacecraft launched near sunset can create strange effects. The gases expelled by spacecraft reflect only the light reaching the upper atmosphere at that time. And since the sunlight remains reflective for a long period, such sightings can seem unexplainable. UAPs might also be caused by light reflecting off communication satellites. But could UAPs really be alien spaceships? People often expect first contact with alien life to be dramatic, but the reality might be more subtle. Our first encounter with alien life may actually be discovering their technology. For example, we might find a piece of space debris that didn't originate on Earth, like spotting an empty plastic bag blowing through space. We'd know it didn't come from Earth, but we wouldn't know where it came from. Another possibility is that the aliens we might encounter may no longer exist. In 1961, astronomer Frank Drake developed the Drake equation, which estimates how many alien civilizations might be capable of sending signals. The equation considers factors like the rate at which stars form and the number of planets capable of supporting life in a Goldilocks zone, a habitable zone located at the right distance from a star for water to remain a liquid. However, one key factor in the equation is represented by L, which stands for the length of time technological civilizations produce detectable signs of their existence. Humanity has only been technologically advanced for a little over 100 years, in a universe that is nearly 14 billion years old. It means that the timing for civilizations to overlap might be rare. Many civilizations might have existed before us, and many may come after us, but the chance that we overlap with theirs is slim. Despite this, some scientists believe that it won't be long before we find definitive evidence of alien life.
J. Allen Hynek, an astrophysicist and ufologist, coined the term close encounter, or CE, in his book The UFO Experience, A Scientific Inquiry, published in 1972. He defined a CE as experiences where a person witnesses an unidentified flying object at a relatively short distance, reducing the likelihood of perceptual errors. Hynek introduced a rigorous classification system widely recognized as the Hynek scale, and it's one of the most significant contributions to ufology. The classification includes 6 categories, but only 3 are considered close encounters. The distinction between distant and close encounters lies in the observer's proximity. Events occurring within 150 meters are classified as close. To better visualize the scale, think of it as a staircase, where each step brings us closer to the unknown. The first 3 steps of the classification involve phenomena observed at distances greater than 150 meters. Nocturnal lights refer to unusual lights observed at night, often red, blue, orange, or white, with unexpected movements or speeds. Daylight disks are objects seen during the day, typically disc-shaped or oval. Radar visual phenomena involve UAPs confirmed by radar, which, while adding credibility, can sometimes be attributed to atmospheric anomalies. Steps 4, 5, and 6 are classified as close encounters, made famous by Steven Spielberg's film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which references Hynek's work. A close encounter of the first kind involves sightings of strange flying objects within 150 meters. At this distance, observers can discern details that would be impossible to detect from farther away. Close encounters of the second kind are more unsettling and involve physical effects on the observer's surroundings, such as interference with devices, unusual animal behavior, or physiological effects like paralysis or heat. Evidence might include scorched vegetation, chemical traces, or other inexplicable marks. These incidents suggest that while the object might go unnoticed by the naked eye, its presence leaves a tangible impact. Finally, the 6th step involves the close encounters of the third kind, the most intriguing of all, involving direct interaction with beings from space. Hynek described these beings as animated entities, which could include robots, humanoids, or humans appearing to be UFO pilots. After Hynek's death, fellow researcher Jacques Vallée expanded the scale in his 90s book Confrontations, a scientist's search for alien contact, adding 2 more steps, which were quickly embraced by the community. These are the 4th kind and 5th kind. The close encounters of the 4th kind are known as abductions, and also include episodes of transformation of the sense of reality, such as vivid hallucinations or dreamlike episodes related to UFOs. This also inspired the title and content of the science fiction movie The 4th Kind by Olatunde Osunsanmi. At the top of the staircase, we have the close encounters of the 5th kind. They occur when humans initiate contact with extraterrestrial beings, typically following specific protocols. Some interpret this step as involving physical effects from the encounter, such as injuries or unexplained healings. Over time, the 5th kind has become associated with direct communication between humans and aliens, emphasizing a mutual exchange. Now, this is no joke. Many individuals consider themselves contactees due to experiencing extraterrestrial encounters. Hynek described these contactees as recipients of messages of cosmic importance from usually benevolent beings. These beings often convey peaceful messages aimed at helping humanity resolve conflicts. Contactees often report recurring experiences and additional messages. From the 1940s to the 1960s, contactees became a cultural phenomenon, writing books and giving lectures. Skeptics often dismissed them as dishonest or influenced by false memories, hallucinations, or a lack of scientific understanding. Whether fact or fiction, contactees consistently describe aliens as humanoid beings delivering messages against violence, crime, and nuclear weapons. They portray them as striving to help humanity achieve peace and unity. Their reports often include men in black, mysterious figures allegedly working to suppress these messages. Sound familiar? It's no coincidence that this idea inspired the popular movie franchise. Have you ever experienced any of Hynek's steps, or heard a blood-chilling story from somebody close to you? Let us know in the comments. And if you're curious about why beings from other planets might be observing us, well, we have some videos about that too. What if some of the brightest minds in Europe believed they had been chosen to receive messages from aliens? In the 1960s, a group of intellectuals in Spain was convinced that beings from the planet Oumuamua were reaching out to them, and the story only gets stranger from there. 1960s Spain was a breeding ground for what is known as the UFO fever, which had reached its peak in the United States during the 1950s with the Roswell incident. If you're not familiar with this famous case, we have a full video on our channel about it. The Spanish fever began with a UFO sighting, one that had been announced in advance, by letter. Yes, you heard that right. Days before the flying saucers appeared, Fernando Sesma, founder of the Society of Friends of the Space Visitors, received a series of strange typewritten letters. At first glance, they seemed ordinary, formal, precise, but as he read, he realized something astonishing. The letters claimed to come from extraterrestrial beings. Their authors introduced themselves as the Oumuamua, inhabitants of a planet called Oumuamua, supposedly located in the Virgo constellation, 14 light-years away. They described their deep interest in studying humans, but assured they had no intention of interfering with Earth's development. Then came the most shocking revelation: a specific date, location, and time when they would make their presence known. It wasn't just a cryptic message, it was a prediction of an imminent UFO sighting. Sesma and his group of space enthusiasts held meetings in the basement of Café Lyon, a space frequently visited by intellectuals of the time. There, beneath a mural of a smiling whale, they discussed topics such as spiritualism, the occult, symbolism, and, of course, extraterrestrials. The messages Sesma received from the Oumuamua were shared at these gatherings. It was in one of these letters that announced their intention to make themselves visible. The Oumuamua flying saucers reportedly made 3 appearances. The first in 1950 near Digne, followed by sightings in Aluche in 1966 and San Jose de Valderas in 1967. The second sighting was witnessed by José Luis Jordan Peña, a researcher of parapsychology and ufology, as well as a journalist and contributor to paranormal magazines. Curiously, he was the one who claimed to have seen the flying saucer firsthand. Adding to the mystery, traces were allegedly found at the supposed landing site. A year later, the second sighting was documented in photographs taken by regular attendees of the Smiling Whale meetings. The images showed a spacecraft marked with the distinctive Oumuamua symbol on its base, further fueling speculation. Beyond these sightings, the Oumuamua letters stood out for their sophistication. Addressed to experts and academics, they explored complex topics such as philosophy, technology, and scientific advancements in physics, electronics, and computational theory. Over 200 of these documents, supposedly written by aliens, remain accessible on the website oumuamua.org. Among the letters available online, some feature colorful illustrated explanations, while others provide detailed insights into Oumuamua's customs and traditions. Some go even further, questioning Earth's global power structures, promoting peace, and offering recommendations on how to build a better world, according to their extraterrestrial perspective. The Oumuamua phenomenon didn't stay confined to letters and sightings. It spread across multiple countries and languages, gaining unexpected traction in the media. The extensive coverage led to an unusual level of public acceptance, turning the Oumuamua affair into a widespread fascination. Even politics capitalized on the UFO craze. In 1989, at the height of Cold War tensions, the Soviet Union was allegedly visited by an Oumuamua flying saucer in the city park of Voronezh. Several children claimed to have witnessed humanoid beings emerging from the craft, a story that quickly made headlines. Whether genuine or not, the incident conveniently aligned with a growing global obsession with extraterrestrial life. Its impact on politics, media, and intellectual circles was undeniable. But in 1993, the mastermind behind it all finally spoke. José Luis Jordan Peña publicly admitted that he had fabricated the entire story to bring complex debates to the scientific community. He also described it as a social experiment that had spiraled out of control, prompting him to put an end to it. You're probably wondering, what did he mean by spiraled out of control? Well, the Oumuamua phenomenon was also exploited for sinister purposes by depraved cults, such as Edelweiss, a sect of fanatics who lured minors under the pretense of being extraterrestrial princes. This horrifying case was one of the main reasons Jordan Peña decided to reveal the truth about his writings. He admitted to using a voice distortion device to create a metallic resonance during phone calls and revealed that he wrote the letters on weekends, sending them from different locations during his travels. However, given the vast number of letters and their global reach, it's unlikely that he acted alone. Many of his explanations also remain frustratingly vague for Oumuamua believers, who refuse to accept that Jordan Penna was solely responsible for all Oumuamua communications. Even today, messages from Oumuamua continue to appear on X and other media. Was it all just a hoax that spiraled out of control, or is someone, human or otherwise, still keeping the myth alive?
Picture this. We finally make contact with aliens. Exciting, isn't it? But then comes the big question: how do you even start a conversation with beings who might be as different from us as apples are from algebra? Enter Olaf Witkowski with an idea that's, well, pretty out there. He thinks the best way to say hello to extraterrestrials is to threaten them. Here's his reasoning. No matter what kind of alien life form we're dealing with, whether those are slimy space blobs or super advanced warriors, there's one universal trait all life shares: the will to survive. It's the basic definition of life itself. His idea is to make them feel like their survival is under threat because, as he puts it, they'll understand that. Essentially, it's like tapping on a fish tank to see if the fish are awake, except these fish might be armed with laser beams. But hold on, this idea isn't about actually hurting anyone. Witkowski's whole point is that survival is a language that surpasses biology or culture. If aliens perceive us as a threat, it might actually open the door to showing them we're capable of cooperation too. Once we've got their attention, we might even find common ground in the basic instinct to stay alive. Sounds like nihilism to me. But before you start picturing Witkowski as some kind of evil sci-fi villain, let's clear that up. He's anything but. Think of him more like a philosopher meets scientist. Calm, introspective, and all about exploring ways to create understanding. He's traveled the world, mastered about a dozen languages, and dedicated his career to studying how AI systems cooperate. If anyone's got a shot at cracking the code of alien communication, it's this guy. Still, not everyone's convinced by his poke the aliens approach. For decades, scientists have been discussing the theory that math and physics could act as a universal language. The idea is that if we beam a signal containing something like prime numbers, the aliens would recognize it as intelligent. After all, a prime number is a prime number, whether you're in the Milky Way or Andromeda, right? Well, perhaps not. Carl Sagan, an American astronomer and planetary scientist, once tested this idea by handing a coded message to talented scientists at a party and asking them to decode it. Spoiler, they failed. And if humans can't crack a supposedly universal message, what makes us think aliens would? Then there's the old debate about whether we should even want to meet extraterrestrials in the first place. Many SETI aka Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence researchers are optimistic, arguing that any civilization advanced enough to travel between stars must also be peaceful. After all, they'd need to have avoided destroying themselves to reach that point. Plus, let's face it, Earth probably doesn't have anything they can't find somewhere else in the galaxy. Mining our planet for resources when there are countless uninhabited planets out there just seems like bad economics. But not everyone's so sure. Some argue that the galaxy might still be a survival of the fittest kind of place, where the most aggressive civilizations end up on top. Even if most aliens are peaceful, who's to say there aren't a few space pirates out there looking for trouble? On the other hand, what if aliens aren't here to conquer us, but to study us? Maybe their way of reaching out is by testing our survival instincts, kind of like saying, hey, let's see what you're made of. To them, it might not seem hostile at all, a version of a handshake, even if it feels like a punch to us. So what do we do if that day ever comes? There's no perfect answer. Some scientists will keep sending out math problems into space hoping for a friendly reply. Others might be more open to riskier strategies like survival-based mind games. Either way, first contact is bound to be a scenario unlike anything we've ever faced. And if you were in charge, would you try Witkowski's approach and poke the alien bear to start a conversation? Or would you play it safe and hope they send us a "we come in peace" message first?
An air traffic controller registers a distress call from a commercial pilot. Another call and one more. All of the calls report the same, an unidentified flying object. These alleged sightings happened between Saturday, December the 7th, and Sunday. Pilots were claiming they had seen numerous mysterious flying objects and lights over Eugene, Oregon. After Live8c.net, which broadcasts air traffic control transmissions, published the audio recordings of the pilots' reports, this news went viral on social media platforms. The Federal Aviation Administration confirmed the sightings a few days later. They said that a pilot had reported observing unidentified lights while flying in Seattle Air Route Traffic Control Center airspace. But at the same time, the FAA didn't confirm the authenticity of the audio, making the rounds on social media. Now, if you listen to the audio attentively, you'll find out that some object was registered by air traffic control collision avoidance systems. You can also hear air traffic control informing the pilot that no military activity had been happening in the area. At 8:39 p.m. on Saturday, a United Airlines pilot said on the transmission that the lights appeared just straight west of Eugene. They saw 3 or 4 of them. What shocked the United Flight 1596 pilot the most was that the lights were all altitudes up and down, which was pretty crazy. The National UFO Reporting Center also got a report, this time from a different pilot. He overheard the chatter over air traffic control channels while landing the plane. That pilot confirmed the sightings reported over Eugene around 8:40 p.m. Soon after that, the pilot of a medical evacuation aircraft under tail number N661LF joined the conversation, announcing they had just seen another light. It zipped toward the plane and then dashed back out toward the ocean. According to the pilot's statement, the light was red and moving at an extreme speed. After receiving all these reports, air traffic control realized they needed to act fast, so they started instructing the pilots to do everything they could to avoid a collision. They cleared the planes to maneuver as necessary, left or right, to steer clear of the UFO out there. Fast forward to the following Friday, December 13th. Life Flight Network issued the following statement. On Saturday evening, December 7th, during a routine flight near Eugene, Oregon, one of our crews observed an unusual moving light in the sky. We can confirm that it was one of our pilots on the ATC recording that has been widely distributed over the last couple of days. While the nature of the light remains unidentified, at no time did it pose any safety risk to our aircraft or crew. Neither Life Flight Network nor our crew are speculating about the origin or nature of the light, and our focus remains on the safe and efficient operation of our services. But the main question remains, were those bizarre moving lights alien spaceships? Well, the UFO Reporting Center doesn't support this idea. They claim that sightings like these are common, but they probably don't involve extraterrestrials visiting us. They might actually be SpaceX's Starlink satellite internet constellation. The thing is, at first, Starlink satellites move in a perfectly straight line, and most pilots know what such bright lights are and can identify them. But when the satellites get to their destination point where they're supposed to get into their final orbits, they begin moving around, doing maneuvers. That's when they can form weird formations. Often, those are shaped as triangles. Plus, these satellites can move back and forth and create patterns. Honestly, they can look pretty eerie, and tons of pilots don't know about that. So, when Starlink satellites rise high into the sky, loads of pilots report them as UFOs.
Are we alone in the universe? It's a question we've all asked ourselves, perhaps on a quiet, starry night, while gazing at the constellations and feeling small in the vastness of the cosmos. But what if science could actually answer it? Astrophysicists have been pondering this for decades. Back in the 1960s, a groundbreaking formula was introduced to estimate the chances of intelligent life within our galaxy, the Milky Way. It's called the Drake equation, and it was the first logical attempt to tackle this profound mystery. But here's the exciting part. After decades, without a formula surpassing Frank Drake's, scientists at Durham University in England have introduced a brand new model that could help us understand the odds of life existing across multiple universes. Intrigued? Let's dive in. Frank Drake, a radio astronomer and SETI pioneer, introduced his famous equation in 1961. He aimed to estimate the number of civilizations in the Milky Way capable of emitting detectable radio signals. But Drake knew that certain conditions would have to be met. After all, how could a microorganism on a distant planet send us signals without even possessing intelligence?
The equation itself is straightforward. Drake considered variables like the number of stars formed annually, the planets orbiting them in the habitable zone, neither too cold nor too hot, the fraction of planets where life could thrive and evolve, and finally, the lifespan of such civilizations. With these factors, the equation intended to address one big question. How many civilizations in our galaxy could be broadcasting signals right now? Since its publication, the Drake equation has sparked endless debate among scientists about the values of its variables. Its simplicity makes it brilliant, but also a constant reminder of how much we still don't know. So what makes this 2024 model so revolutionary? The researchers factored in something the Drake equation didn't: the expansion of the universe and the role of dark energy. This mysterious force, which makes up 2/3 of the total matter in our universe, accelerates its expansion. But here's the catch. For life to form, ordinary matter must clump together to create stars and planets. These stars and planets must remain stable for billions of years to allow life to evolve. This new model calculates the likelihood of intelligent life forming not just in our universe but across hypothetical universes, a scenario known as the multiverse theory. This research doesn't estimate the quantity of intelligent life in our universe. Instead, it calculates the likelihood of an observer existing in a universe with specific characteristics. And here's where it gets interesting. The researchers found that a typical observer in another universe would likely experience more dark matter than we do. In other words, our universe is statistically unusual. They also discovered that a more efficient universe, one that could convert up to 27% of its ordinary matter into stars, might have better odds of forming life. By comparison, our universe only converts about 23%. More stars mean more chances for life to develop. So, while our universe isn't the best candidate for fostering life, we're proof that the improbable is possible. This branch of science, called computational cosmology, blends theory, physics, programming, and statistics to tackle one of the universe's greatest mysteries: the role of dark matter in shaping the universe. Dr. Daniele Sorini from Durham University explains that understanding the parameters governing our universe, such as dark matter density, could even help us understand why we exist. A profound thought, isn't it? And here's the kicker. While a universe with more dark matter might have more stars and better odds of forming life, our existence proves that life can thrive against the odds. So, as we gaze into the night sky and wonder who or what might be out there, one thing is clear: we're part of something extraordinary, even in a universe that's anything but ordinary.
Any UFO enthusiast would tell you that the world is teeming with strange occurrences, sightings, government disclosures, and the sudden appearance of unknown craft. In 2021, the CIA declassified thousands of pages of UFO-related documents. And yet, modern-day mysteries are only the latest in a long history of unexplainable phenomena. And one of the most bizarre and chilling tales comes from Japan. It's the legend of the Utsurobune, a mysterious otherworldly vessel. This tale suggests that we might not be the first to toy with the idea of visitors from space. The Utsurobune arrived as early as 1803. It was described as a ship not of wood or sailcloth, but something alien. Professor Tanaka Kazuo of Gifu University, who has dedicated decades to the study of the Utsurobune legend, has pointed out that the mysterious ship of this tale resembles a flying saucer. And it was long before the modern concept of UFOs saw the light of day. So on February 22nd, 1803, off the coast of Hitachi Province, Japan, the sea seemed to give birth to an enigma. Fishermen spotted a strange vessel. It was unlike anything they had seen before, so they felt pretty unnerved when they dragged it to shore. The craft was over 10 feet tall and nearly 18 feet wide, and it had an uncanny resemblance to a koro, a traditional Japanese incense burner. But it was made not of clay or wood, but strange, lacquered rosewood on its upper half and metal plates on the bottom. As the fishermen peered inside through glass windows, they saw that an unknown script adorned the walls. They could neither read nor understand those symbols. Inside, there were cakes, water, and bedsheets. It was creepy cargo for a vessel that defied logic. And then there was another mystery: a woman. She seemed to be around 20 years old, with skin as pale as porcelain. Her red hair was long and had strands of white. She was dressed in long, smooth garments of unknown material and spoke in a language no one recognized. But the strangest thing was the box she carried. It was a rectangular object that she clutched tightly. She didn't allow anyone to touch it, no matter how persistently they asked. Rumors spread like wildfire. Most people remained cautious. They feared that tampering with such a mystery might invoke dark forces beyond human understanding. So, they chose to let the sea take its prey. According to some sources, the woman was returned to her vessel and sent back into the ocean. Those who had found her were chilled by the encounter. They were afraid that something terrible had been set in motion. In the darkness of the night, one could almost hear whispers that the Utsurobune was not the first of its kind to drift ashore, nor would it be the last. Indeed, that Utsurobune was not a single, isolated incident. Other accounts exist too, scattered across time and place. In 1698, a woman in a hollow ship was said to have appeared in Toyohashi. She was sent away when no one could understand her language. And in the decades that followed, sightings of Utsurobune and other strange vessels continued, each one described as eerily similar, with passengers who spoke no known language and carried strange objects. The legend continues to evolve. In 1977, 2 rare ink prints were discovered. They revealed new details and locations tied to the Utsurobune. It seems that this story, this riddle, has never quite been solved. Were those visitors from other worlds, or probably from other planets? Could those legends, with their uncanny similarities, be tied to the same truth? Were the Utsurobune vessels real, or were they the product of imagination? We don't have a certain answer yet,